Hello and welcome back to Project Java. My name is Venkat, and in this video we will be talking about local variable type inferencing. Have you ever thought that if you want to use a variable without specifying its data type, without declaring its type, have you ever wondered that you can write exactly JavaScript like code in Java? Well, now that has been brought to a success. It was brought to a success long back by the Java community with local variable type inferencing in JDK 10. What does this feature do? First question. Before answering the question, I'd like to remind you that before knowing this topic, we only knew one way to use the variable in Java, and that was to firstly declare it using a suitable data type and then assigning some value to it. Okay? This was the only way we could use a variable. And this assigning value should be of the declaring type. It should match the data type with which the variable was declared. Now, if I say that you don't have to do all of this stuff, and if you have a variable and you don't want to make your code redundant, you can really like write down like var sum is equals 10.0 plus 20.0. Well, after JDK 10, this is absolutely correct. And if you are getting any error, if you are executing your code and getting any error here, it means that you are still using or still stuck below JDK 10. So update your binaries and you'll get the correct output. Because from JDK 10, Java said that you don't have to declare any data type for this. My compiler will handle the data. It'll handle the data type for you. It'll infer the data type for you. So you can have any local variable, and you don't have to infer its type, or you don't need to know the data type of this corresponding result specifically. If you know, well then that's well and good. You can write it here, or if you don't, you can use this identifier. Mark the word identifier to enable this local variable type inferencing feature. Type inferencing has its own pros and cons. What are the cons? Let's discuss this first. This word var cannot be used as a class name. The second disadvantage is you cannot have global variables declared with this context sensitive identifier. We'll talk about this in the practical part as well in this video itself. So stick till then. And these are the places where using this context sensitive identifier var is illegal. You cannot use it. It'll give you a compile time error. What are the pros of it? The pros are simply are that you can avoid redundant code. Then you can make your code really readable and clean with this, because you don't really need to specify the data type for complex expressions or mathematical complex expressions, and the fact that it's easy to use. Now there are some restrictions that are there on how to use local variable type inferencing in Java. And since Java is still a strongly typed language, most users prefer using or specifying the data type themselves. Like they still prefer going this first way, this one. But local variable type inferencing has one more con that I need to mention. If you are more into open sourcing, you might have used type inferencing for once just to avoid the complex mathematical expression, and to avoid the data type of the resulting complex mathematical expression. But if you are open sourcing that particular program and you're publishing it online, other programmers might have difficulty inferencing the type. Now, why is it so? Because basically, when you compile your program, the Java compiler removes this var context specific identifier from this place and actually replaces it with the original data type that should have been here. But this process is opaque, it cannot be seen. It is done by the Java compiler, it is visible in the class file, but it's not visible in or during the source code is being written. This problem might pose a readability issue for other programmers. But if you're not open sourcing and well, if you are using it to avoid this redundant code, you can definitely use it. Now let's get into the practical session of local variable type inferencing. So let me switch to IntelliJ. Here we are. I'll create a package. Oh, I should create a class. I'm sorry. Let's say inferencing dot type inferencing example. Okay. Let me enter the presentation mode for you. There we are. Let me get down straight with the main method. Then let's say we want to declare a integer type variable using that type inferencing concept. All I have to do is I'll say var s is equals and then some value, let's say 10. And well, if I have to print this thing, you see what output I will get. And it's pretty simple that after executing this code, I'll get an output of 10. Because at this point, it is not showing me any compile time errors. Obviously, it's taking time to set up the Gradle daemon because this project is based on Gradle. So I'll just cut this part. And here's the output. So we are successful executing this thing. Okay, let's try out some different things. Okay, with this, let's just experiment with a lot of things. I want to say var sum is equals math.pow and 10 comma 2, which means 100 plus 45 145 plus 56.78. Okay, and then let's print the variable sum. The answer is 201.78. And if we see that what are the return types of these all specific things, math.power returns a double type. This is indeed an integer literal, and this is a floating point literal, which is obviously of a double type. So it automatically typecasts the data type to double data type. And this is known as local variable type inferencing. Now, talking about the restrictions that we were having, let's say that I have another class whose name is var. Okay, but we already see some error. What is it? Well, this error is because var is a context specific identifier. It's a restrictive identifier and it is restricted and cannot be used for type declarations like a class name. So this is really clear that it is illegal to use that. And if we try some, global variables, public like private var global, well, we definitely are getting an error. And it says it cannot resolve symbol var and it's expecting a data type here, but we have given this restricted identifier. So definitely we cannot use it. What if I do this? Does it infer the data type now? No, it doesn't. It's because var cannot be used for global variables or class variables in Java. It is only meant to be used for local variables inside of a code block, inside of a method. Okay. How about I want to declare an array? Okay, so let's say declaring an array must be easy. We do it like without local variable type inferencing, we do it like something this. right? Simple. So why not, I can just change this int and replace it with var. What is the problem? Well, the problem is with this square brackets. Why? Because var is not a data type. It's a identifier which tells the Java compiler that you have to infer the data type for this particular expression out here on the compile time, and then replace this identifier for this given variable array. So if we remove these square brackets, and we are good to go. We have an array of type int of size 10. Similarly, let's say we want to instantiate this type inferencing example class. How would you do it before JDK 8 or before JDK 10 approach? Simply, you would write type inferencing example is new type inferencing example. This would be the look, which is definitely redundant, because after all we are calling it here. Then why do we need it to specify this particular thing here? So after JDK 10, what you can do is you can simply write var example is equals new type inferencing example. As simple as that. The Java compiler automatically infers the type. But we have an error here. What is the error? Let's see. Oh, oh, it's because of this redundant code. It's okay. I can just tell example to change the variable name. Java cannot have the same variable name in the same scope. So my bad. So well, this is used to make the code efficient and readable. But in cases like a complex mathematical expression where you need to show that to other programmers, you actually should prefer using the data type or the strongly typed part of Java rather than letting the compiler infer the data type. There is one last thing that I have here to say, which is before or after JDK 10, we used to dynamically initialize arrays in this way. We could simply say 1, 2, 3, and 4 within a pair of curly braces, right? But can we do this with the restricted identifier? Let's try out. Seems like we cannot, because array initializer is not allowed here. How should we fix this? You need to actually mention what type of data it is that you are giving a predefined values of. So if it's a integer type array, you specify a new int just the way without mentioning any kind of size here. There is a sort of ambiguity that you can say, or which exists in the Java ecosystem with respect to local variable type inferencing, which is its uneven access and allowance to be used as an identifier. Because you learned that you cannot have var as a class name, but you can definitely have it as a variable name. And if you print this, you're going to get the same result that you were getting previously. Look, this thing is pretty ambiguous, and it's preferred you shouldn't use all this kind of things. But definitely, in order to replace that redundant code, you can use local variable type inferencing. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll be talking about operators and the new keyword combined with, it'll be combined with arrays, I suppose. So it'll be a long video, let's say 1 hour. So be prepared for it. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Good night.